None of the three Hebrew greats were able to match up to their own teachings. None. When it comes to this person, we're going to put 12 out there. Pilate was a Roman governor. Romans and the Jews were not friends at all. But this is what Pilate said. I have examined him in your friends. I found no fault in him. I find in the book of John, I find no fault in him at all. And then he quotes Herod and says, Herod also did not find. And Herod was a foreign king. Number 3 is Pilate's wife. In the record says, that man is just. He's good. Roman centurion number 4. At the cross, he said, certainly this person was a righteous man. Number 5, one of the persons crucified along with Jesus, he turned to the other criminal and he said, we are dying for what we did. This man has done nothing wrong. These 5 looked at him from a distance. They may have heard about him, but others were very close to him. For instance, John, his disciple. After watching him from morning till evening, day after day, week after week, month after month, for 3.5 years, his conclusion is, in this person, there is no sin. Another disciple, describing him without blemish, without a spot. Disciple Paul, he was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. Number 9 is a very unusual testimony. Jesus is the only founder of a major religion whose name is mentioned in another major religious writing. He is mentioned 90 times in the Quran. 16 times he is identified as Isa bin Maryam, Jesus the son of Mary, not just any Jesus. 11 times in the Quran he is given the title of Messiah. And in chapter 3 and verse 46, the Quran says this, he shall preach to men in the prime of manhood and shall lead a righteous life. A disloyal disciple like Judas, he said, I am the one who have sinned. He is innocent. 11 is also a peculiar and very significant testimony. I have not found a single human I have ever spoken to who can look into his or her own life, and come up with a clean slate. Not a single soul on earth. For me, as I begin the self-examination, I am choked. No chance, not a ghost of a chance. Anything you do will never meet the standards of what you yourself know you're supposed to do or you're supposed to keep away from. This person, in number 11, he looked at his bitterest critics who were thirsting for his death. And he looked at them and said, which of you can convict me of one sin? Do you know what the response was? Silence. The only place, probably in history, where there was silence to such a question. Compare that with Kung Shu. Kung Shu is the Chinese name. His Western name is Confucius, the founder of Confucianism. He said, how dare I claim to be a sage or a benevolent man? And everybody acknowledges Confucius as a person who lived a very pious, high life. And look at what he said about himself. So in that context, and in the context of your experience and mine, for a person to say, I'm looking into my mind, into my deep recesses of my conscience, I cannot find anything wrong at all, is a tremendous and unusual and unique testimony. Number 12, and that's the last one. Are you then the Son of God? They asked him during his trial at the Sanhedrin. The key over there is not that question, but the change. The Sanhedrin was a judicial body too, and according to their traditions, at least 23 members were to be present to pass the death sentence. So we know there were at least a panel of 23 judges facing him. This was an open trial during which you could bring witnesses and weigh it out. And time after time they brought witnesses and simply could not convict him. Finally, the chief priest going against the norms of the chief priest, because the chief priest is not supposed to be a condemnatory avenue or source. He came up straight to him, put him under the highest oath to a Jewish ear, and after putting him under that oath, he said, "Now tell us, really, are you the Son of God?" And the answer to that sent him to his death. The point here is the shift. They had tried by witnesses after witnesses to convict him and could not. And so the chief priest comes and shifts the whole paradigm from what did you do or what did you not do. Shift it off to who are you. This is about the first time, probably, arguably the first time, or the only time in judicial history when a death sentence was handed down, not for anything a person did or did not do, but for his identity. Why the shift? Because 23 judges, calling all the witness that they could possibly bring, could not find one single fault in him. And therefore with these 12, the 12 are from so many different angles. They're not just friends. There were some enemies. There were some people from another country. There's a testimony from another religion. We can't call on bias to make that statement now. We have to accept the huge amount of testimony we see. And therefore, to me, when I was looking at this and brought these 12 together, I said, wow. I did say, wow. Here is one person in whom the theory of teaching was matched in actual practice. Here the teachings had found a fulfillment to the nth degree in life. Here and here alone, then, do I find a person who lived his life to an unblemished perfection. Therefore, here and here alone do I find a person who can stand broad and tall and look you and me in the eye, and with perfect right and perfect credibility tell you and me, follow me. No other founder has that right. Because any other founder, if you followed him, you would still make a mistake like we saw. This is the only person. You follow him, there's a chance you may not make a mistake. But that is if we do believe. But that is also what the evidence shows. That's the third question we asked the founders. Now at this point, like I told you yesterday, I became a little uncomfortable because everything seemed to be going in one direction. And so I changed my style of doing the search, and I said very specifically, now I'm going to look for things in which he does not come up ahead. Otherwise, to myself, it will look like I was pushing him up ahead and putting him in front of the race. So the next three are where he comes out anything but first. Number one, birth and parentage. In Hinduism, multiple authors, no specific founder. All the authors were revered individuals born to honorable parents. You look at any of those authors, they were all sages. Buddhism, his father, Suddhodana, a king, and his mother was Maya, a queen. He was born a prince in Lumbini Grove, and the description of where he was born. The whole nation rejoiced at his birth because a prince had been born. Judaism, a man of the house of Levi went and took his wife, a daughter of Levi, bore a son, and she saw that he was a beautiful child, and he became Pharaoh's daughter's son. Again, honorable birth, because later on, the tribe of Levi became a very important tribe, because the tribe of Levi was in charge of the central part of the nation, which was the tabernacle and the temple. Tabernacle. Islam, Muhammad was the posthumous son of Abdullah, his mother Amina of the tribe of Quraysh, the clan of Hashim. Once again, the tribe of Quraysh was not the strongest and the most powerful and the most influential, but it was one of the most important because the tribe of Quraysh was the one that would take care of the Kaaba, the most holy place which people go to for pilgrimage today in Mecca. So honorable, pedigree was good. This person, after his mother, Mary, was betrothed to Joseph, before they came together, she was found with child. The only founder conceived out of wedlock. Now, to a liberal society, it does not amount to much, but not in first century conservative Palestine. That would be a moral stain to the individual and to the family, and anybody looking on would say, most probably the favor of God is not on them to be born that way. In fact, it dogged his days. When he went to the temple, the religious top brass, the elite, looked at him and said, "Who are you? You are trying to teach us morals and ethics? We were not born of fornication like you. Get out of here." Nobody has ever started a strong, big religious tradition with this kind of a beginning. To be born illegitimate. In fact, in the Jewish traditional writings, even today, this is the genealogical description of this man. So-and-so, bastard son of an adulteress. You read it in their writings. But some questions still remain. How did he develop a following after such a deep moral stain to his name? And number two, when I looked at it, I said, okay, he was despised because of that. He was taunted and thrown off with disdain. We were not born of fornication. So everybody knew there was something wrong. What was wrong? Conceived out of wedlock, illegitimate. Why did they call him illegitimate? Everybody knew who his mother was. The question they could not answer was they did not know who his father was. That is why he was called illegitimate. Nobody could identify his father, either in the village or anywhere else. Do you know, if that's the case, then one claim is still a possibility. His own claim that his father was God. We can't prove it, but the very fact that he was illegitimate. See, if he was born like you and me and we could identify his father and mother, then it's settled. No, you are not God. You have your father, you have your mother. But if you don't have one of them, like in this case, the question can persist. We have not settled the question, but it still persists. You can't simply wipe it off. It could still be